The photograph shows a picture of Hyacinth de Riggs, who disappeared on the boat, the Island Queen, in 1944. Some of you have heard of that terrible disaster. Let me say that one woman in Grenada who lived there, we call Tanti Edna, she lost 3 children on the Island Queen. Mr. Michael Marichaud can tell you the story. And now, a talk about the Island Queen. And I'll begin with a quotation. Not even Lucy's straw hat. Now those were the somber words my great-grandmother uttered in the wake of a terrible disaster that occurred on the seas, August the 5th, 1944, somewhere between Grenada and St. Vincent. I journeyed to the Bronx, I remember the day well, on Wednesday, 18th of August, 2004, to meet with my great-aunt Sylvia, a wonderful woman. Rest in peace. I visited to get some details concerning the disappearance of the Island Queen. One of the 2 boats that left Grenada on that sad day in 1944 during the Second World War. The Island Queen had left Grenada on an excursion loaded with the children of some of Grenada's prominent citizens. Now, I grew up hearing stories of the Island Queen, and one of the stories that floated around while I was growing up was that the boat had a German engine and a British submarine torpedoed it. Aunt Sylvia told me she had heard of that too. But the confusing part about that story was nothing from the boat washed up to the shore in Grenada, St. Vincent, or even Carriacou. Nothing was found, not even Lucy's straw hat was recovered. Another theory pointed to the subterranean volcano, some people call it a submarine volcano, Jenny, which lurks off the northern part of Grenada. Some people believed that the Island Queen was swallowed up by the turbulent waves in the sea above the volcano. My great-aunt was also familiar with that story, but she kept insisting that there was no firm evidence about what really happened on that day. The other boat that left Grenada, the Providence Mark, well, it made it safely to St. Vincent, and those on that boat were shocked when the Island Queen, which was supposed to get there an hour earlier, had not docked. Great Aunt Sylvia then related the saddest part of the story. I saw the grief in her eyes as she told me of the loss of her brother Hyacinth and her sister Lucy. And she related a story. She said how Lucy had taken her nephew Dunbar into her arms and said to Dunbar, come kiss Mama goodbye. You might never see Mama again. Lucy always called herself Mama when she took the little boy Dunbar into her arms, and her words proved prophetic. Now, Dunbar passed away earlier this year. I recently did a little piece on the leaves that were changing Prospect Park because Dunbar loved photography, and I remembered him And if he was around, I know he'll be out taking all the beautiful pictures of the leaves. So I did something to remember Dunbar. But the story I want to get to is when I published my very first book, Recollections of an Island Man, which you can find on Amazon, I called Dunbar. He lived in the Bronx. And I said, Dunbar, I just did a book, published a book, and there's a story there I want to read to you. And Dunbar made his way from the Bronx to Brooklyn. And I remember the day well. I read the story right in front the door to Dunbar. The story of the disappearance of the Island Queen and the part, come kiss Mama goodbye. You might never see Mama again. And right then and there, Dunbar broke down and started to cry. And then there was the story of Hyacinth, my grandfather. Now Hyacinth, you see how things work? Originally, he could not get passage on the boat. He could not get a spot to be on the boat. It had reached its capacity. Now, a big shot man, some of you have heard of him, Mr. S.A. Francis. Well, he was gambling somewhere, and they told Mr. Francis the boat was about to leave. And Mr. Francis said, let the boat go. Well, he was winning. He said, let the boat go. And his seat became available. And who got the seat was my grandfather Hyacinth, the unfortunate soul who got it. And Hyacinth hurriedly packed a few things in his suitcase and boarded the boat. No one has seen him since. And another story. Ansel referred to the great jubilation that existed as Hyacinth and Lucy and others on the boat, the Island Queen. The boat moved out of the harbor. And the happy group had the harmonicas, the guitars, and the musical instruments, hoping to entertain themselves on the trip. Probably they did before disaster struck. But whatever music they played became the requiem, the funeral march, although there was no funeral. She told me of the sadness that overcame my great grandma, Agatha. Agatha joined the parents of the lost children in a daily vigil by the pier or by Melville Street, and they looked out to the sea for signs of the Island Queen. And there were periods of hope when somebody thought they saw the boat approaching. But the hope always turned out to be false. Many parents, on hearing of a sighting, would rush to the shore, only to be sadly disappointed. According to Aunt Sylvia, she said many pots were burnt while people stood peering out to the Caribbean Sea. So on that day, I left her with a saddened heart, and I still do not know what happened to my grandfather, Hyacinth, on that mysterious day. Many years have gone since the disaster, and the truth is yet to be known. Aunt Sylvia related the sorrow that visited the parents and families of those who were lost. And yes, a few parents lost more than 2 children. The gruesome evidence that would write the final chapter of the Island Queen is perhaps buried somewhere beneath the Caribbean Sea. Anthony Wendell the Riggs, just doing my part, to keep the stories alive, and this one hits home the sorrow. And here is a picture, a photo of Lucy Derricks, who disappeared on the Island Queen in 1944. God bless.